Everybody wants more licks, more blues licks, more 2/5 licks, more patterns in order to increase their jazz vocabulary. Well, in this video, I want to expose you to a blues lick you probably never heard of. Hi, I'm Donna from DonnaSchwartzMusic.com, the site to boost your performance and improvisation skills up to the next level. So what I just played was something that has been stuck in my head for many, many, many years. Back in the day, when I was going to college and I was living in New York, I used to listen to an awesome radio station called WBGO. And WBGO is based in Newark, New Jersey, but you could hear it in New York and on Long Island where I lived. And it was like a jazz education in and of itself. Even though I was going to school for music, I learned so much from listening to that station. The radio DJs and personalities were well educated and they made great selections of music to listen to. I also learned a ton from Phil Schaap from WKCR that was based out of Columbia University in New York City. And again, great education. He went really in depth with especially Charlie Parker's music. So I digress. The point being is that I used to hear that particular lick, if you will, quite often every time I would be driving. And commuting in New York, if you don't know it, it's really nasty. So I'd be in the car for quite a while. So this lick comes from, well, let me ask you, if you know where this lick comes from, write it in the comments below. But I'm going to tell you that this lick comes from the tune Burke's Works. It's a Dizzy Gillespie tune. Now, when I did a session on my Facebook Live page, facebook.com/DonnaSchwartzMusic, and I did this session on this particular lesson, I had people guessing as to where did they, did they ever hear this lick before? And they were guessing Thelonious Monk, Dave Brubeck, Take 5. And those are pretty good guesses, actually, because there's elements of this lick that you hear in Thelonious Monk's tunes, and you also hear within Take 5. Okay, so those were great guesses. But nope, this is a Dizzy Gillespie tune called Burke's Works. And for the life of me, I always had a mental block against the name. Even up till recently. I don't know why, I just did. So I really, really made it a point to just absolutely keep playing this tune and keep remembering the title of it. Okay, so now I'm going to play this a bunch of times, and I'm going to I'm not going to teach you the lick, all right? I saved that for my one-on-one elite coaching students, and also I'm going to be making a Patreon lesson. Patreon is, I have a site on Patreon for people to help donate to help me to continue to make these videos. I'm going to be putting a lesson up there in the next month or so. But I'm going to kind of have you hear it a few times. I'm going to ask you a few questions and get it in your ears because it's really, really awesome. And I'm not going to do the entire tune. I'm going to take the first piece of it because if you listen to this tune when we're done, I want you to go search Dizzy Gillespie, Burke's Works. You'll hear other people doing it as well as Art Pepper and stuff. But I want to take that first chunk because what you're going to find is that first chunk. Okay, I wanted to sing that. You're going to find that there's certain elements within that first chunk that keep going on in the whole tune. Okay, so let me play that first chunk. I'll do it again. Starting to get in your head, right? Okay, and again, this goes off of my system, hear it, sing it, play it. All right, so I'm going to play it again slower. I'm going to ask you if you hear any patterns, okay? Patterns. What are patterns? All right, well, patterns can be things that repeat, but it could also be things that are familiar, okay? Things that you know already, but maybe used in a different context, or maybe used but not the full part of it. Okay, so let me play that lick again a few times. I'll go a little slower, and I'm going to ask you, patterns, yes or no? And if yes, what are they? Do it again better. So, did you hear any patterns? Yes or no? Let me know in the comments. And if you said yes, what did you hear? All right, if you did say yes, yeah, there are patterns in here, okay? In fact, there's two. One of them is this, that you probably did hear. This was pretty evident. Boot-da-ba-doo-ba-da-li-ya-da-da, ba-li-ya-da. Boot-da-ba-doo-ba-da-li-ya-da, boot-doo-ba-da, boot-bop, boot-doo-ba-doo-ba-da-li-ya-da. That little da-ya-da. Now, some people call that a trill. That's not a trill. A trill is when you're playing quickly between two notes that are a step or a half step away. This is called a turn. Okay, so a turn, it basically goes around a note, okay? It's an embellishment. All right, so that turn, is definitely something that repeated. Okay, I mentioned two. I could actually, I'm going to say three. Okay, the second thing, well, think about it. Any similarities there? If you said yes, yeah, absolutely. It's almost exactly the same thing, almost exactly the same line, repeated, right? Okay, so that's the second pattern. Here's the third one, and this is you need an astute ear for this one, okay? Boot-doop-ba-doop-bop, boot-doop-ba-doop-bop, boot-doop-ba-doop-ba-diddly-ya-da, boot-doop-ba-ba-doop-bop, boot-doop-ba-doop-ba-diddly-ya-da, boot-doop-bop. Think about those notes. All right, I'm going to ask you some questions about the notes in a minute, but anything sound familiar with that? Okay. If you said it comes from the blues scale, yes. It actually does, okay? And that's a pattern. Why is it a pattern? Because it comes from something familiar, all right? Now, I'm going to ask you something. I'm going to play even less of that first phrase. I'm going to ask you, how many different notes did you hear? If you need to pause this and keep listening to that, or listen to the original, it doesn't matter, do that and come back to me. And I want to know how many different notes you heard. This is easier than you think, okay? Now, if you said 5, you're correct. When I ran this on Facebook, people weren't sure. They said 4, 6, 7, not sure. There's 5, okay? Now, one tip for playing this lick that comes from Burke's works. We talked before about one of the patterns being blues scale, right? Okay, one big tip, really know your blues scale. I'm playing this in concert C, which is my tenor D, all right? Now, if you don't know what the transposition is for your instrument, you could always Google it. Okay, what is concert C for alto sax? What is concert C for piano? Well, I'm going to tell you that piano, guitar, bass, those are C-based instruments, so you don't need to be transposing. If you do play a transposing instrument, which is a lot of the wind instruments, trumpet included, right? Wind, we blow wind. I'm going to suggest to you, definitely check out my video about transposition. Just search my name and transposition, and you'll find the video. But definitely get comfortable understanding how to transpose from concert pitch. Because when you go to play with backing tracks, right, we're in the world of COVID right now, so it's real little difficult to go outside and jam with somebody. But if you're looking for backing tracks, it's going to be in concert pitch. It's not going to be in the pitch of your instrument. I've gotten questions from people like, you know, I'm doing blues, I'm playing alto, I'm doing blues in D, and I search backing track in D, and something sounds off. Oh, totally, yeah. That's concert D, that's your B, okay? That's not your D, okay? So it's in concert pitch, so please be aware of that. So really get to know, I played this in concert C, really get to know that blues scale. Now this tune, it's a blues. If you looked it up and you looked at the chords, you'd be like, that's not really a blues. Yes, it is. It's a blues. It's a little bit of a variation on the blues. I'm not going to get into that here because that will be a little bit advanced for some people, and that's not the point of this video. But this is definitely a blues, okay? And it uses the concert C blues scale if you play it in that key. I've heard people playing it in other keys. Now, here's another pro tip for you. If you really want to learn this lick, I'm going to give you actually 2 tips here. Definitely practice your blues scale, but also practice your blues scales in other keys. Because if you really want to learn a lick, you do want to transpose it to other keys. That's the first thing. The second thing is this. The reason why a lot of people have difficulty using blues scales and improvising is because they always practice their blues scales like this. They play it the same way every day, probably similar tempos, same way every day. This song uses the blues scale. That's why it's an awesome blues lick. But it doesn't start on a downbeat, and most people practice their blues scale starting on a downbeat. So vary up the rhythms that you use to practice your blues scale. Don't just play it boo-ba, boo-ba, doo-ba, doo-ba, da-ba, doo-ba, da-ba, dum. It really, it will make you stuck. It'll make you stuck. Okay, so now that you've heard this lick a lot, all right, and you see what it's pretty much made up out of, and you know it's from Burke's Works, okay, and you can listen to the tune. I'm urging you to do that as soon as we're done here. In a follow-up lesson, I'm going to talk about how to take a lick that you learn that you like and apply it to a solo. All right, so I hope you like this lesson. Definitely check out the rest of my videos on my YouTube channel. Hit the like button, tap that subscribe bell so you know when my next videos come out each and every week. And definitely check out my website, donnaschwartzmusic.com, for more stuff to help you boost your performance and improvisation skills up to the next level. Thanks so much for joining me. On that note, take care. Have a great day.